This is your 2:25 Q&A mock. Oh, excuse me. This is your 1-minute warm-up for your mock, your Q&A 2:25. Ready? So, Mr. Poole, your testimony is that you don't know anything about this?
That's exactly right.
Just absolutely nothing whatsoever?
Whatsoever.
And what time that day did you get together with Mr. Larry Wilton?
I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of around 10 or 10:30 or something like that. I'm not sure of exactly the time.
Do the two of you work together?
I have used Mr. Wilton on numerous occasions in my work.
And what does he do for you?
He paints, moves ladders, drop cloths, things of this nature. He's more of an apprentice than a genuine painter.
And what exactly is it that you testified that you do?
I'm a paint contractor. I'm licensed in the city of New Bedford and a number of areas around here.
Does Mr. Wilton work for you regularly or just occasionally?
Mr. Wilton is a welder by trade, and when he is out of work and when I have work that I can use him in, his particular skill as an apprentice, I work him.
Now this van, do you own this van?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you use it for?
For hauling ladders, paint, drop cloths, brushes, etc.
In other words, you use it in your work, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, is it just a standard 1971 Chevy van? Okay, now this is your Q&A mock at 225 words per minute. Your proper names are the West Coast, Naples, South Florida, Puerto Rico, United States, Miami, Joe Perez, Doors of Salvation, Joe, Sunrise, Davy, Davy Boulevard, John Perez, John, Gus, Prate, West Coast, Garcia, Stephen, Orlando, David Garcia, and Target. Ready? What kind of place?
It's a gated community for retirement.
That's in the West Coast also?
That's in Naples. It's complicated.
As far as your lower back, have you ever had any lower back problems before the accident?
No.
Where did you grow up? Down here or in South Florida?
No.
Where did you grow up?
Puerto Rico.
When did you come to the United States?
15, when I was 15 years old.
When you came over from Puerto Rico, did you come to South Florida or did you go somewhere else?
South Florida, towards Miami.
What brought you to South Florida?
My mom and my dad split up, so that way it would make it closer when I moved down from when my mom and dad split up when I was 9 years old. So my dad moved from Puerto Rico to South Florida when I was 9. So a few years later, they decided instead of traveling, we just had to come over here. That would be closer than it is here for us to see him.
When you were in Puerto Rico growing up, did you play any sports?
Baseball.
Anything else?
No.
When you came over to South Florida, did you continue to play baseball?
Yes.
Through high school?
Yes, towards my freshman year.
Do you currently have any hobbies or sports that you like to play?
No, sometimes, not really. I just throw the ball with my brother, like throw the ball.
So other than throwing the baseball, there's no other sports that you play?
Nothing at all. I am stuck.
Before the accident, the date of loss. In other words, date of the accident, September 28, 2002. Does that seem like that was the day?
I know the year was 2002 towards, I don't remember the month, but I know towards that date because it was when we were going toward church that night.
Okay, where were you coming from?
From Joe Perez's house.
And you said you were going to church?
Correct.
Which church were you going to that night?
The same Doors of Salvation, the one that I just talked about.
Before leaving from Joe's house or before you got to Joe's house, where were you before that?
Before? Where I was before Joe's house, I was at my mom's house on 9765 in Sunrise.
Did Joe live close to you?
Only 10-15 minutes.
He lived down in Davie?
Yeah, Davie Boulevard.
When you got to Joe's house, who was there other than Joe?
His brother, which was John Perez, and his mom and dad.
Did John go with you to the church?
No.
Who went from Joe's house with you to the church?
It was me, Joe, and Gus.
Is that Prate?
Yes.
How do you know Gus Prate?
Also from the church youth group.
How did you get from your mom's house to Sunrise over to Joe's house?
Joe came to pick me up.
What time did he pick you up?
I think he was almost at my house already around 4 or 5 in the evening.
Do you recall what day of the week this was?
I think it was a Thursday. I am not sure.
Would you regularly go to church on Thursday?
Yes.
So this was no special event. This was?
It was like a youth group, you know. Like we got classes for the youth group on Thursdays. Also on Sunday towards Sunday school. And after that, we just go to a youth group.
What did you do at the youth group?
We just go to classes like they will be preaching. We plan activities, what we're going to do. For example, if we have a convention, we talk about that to have a plan.
I don't go to the Doors of Salvation, okay? You go to youth groups and Joe is older. Why is Joe going to youth groups?
Why? Because they are all teenagers and other old guys like him. It's not limited towards, you could be, unless you are an old man, like that 29, 32 in there, 36.
When would be the last time that you would have gone to any of the events or anything at the Doors of Salvation?
It would be the last time I went was the last time.
When was the last time?
When was the last time? I don't know if he still comes over.
Right. Well, we know you live on the West Coast.
No, that's the whole point. Okay. The last time I went there was to visit my mom to see her at church. That was on Sunday.
Your mom still is involved with the church?
Yes.
Going back in 2002 to these youth groups, who was in charge of the youth groups?
I think it's Stephen.
Do you know Stephen's last name?
I think it's Garcia. He is the pastor's son.
Who was the pastor?
David. He is still the pastor, but I know Stephen. He plays the piano because my mom sings in the chorus. He moved down to Orlando.
Stephen did?
Yes.
David Garcia is still the pastor?
Yes.
I asked if you had any prior low back problems. Have you ever had any shoulder problems, either right or left?
No.
Have you ever had any prior chiropractic treatment before that accident?
No.
That would be for any reason.
Never.
Have you ever had any prior surgeries for anything?
Because of the...
No, before the accident. Have you ever had any surgeries?
I think it was another surgery in my left knee.
Who was the doctor that did the surgery on your left knee?
I don't know. I would have to ask my mom. I think she had the records, but I don't know.
What Target store were you working for when that occurred?
The West Target store.
What year was that work comp claim?
In the 90s. Like I would say, if anything, like 94, 93.
Were you living over in the West Coast then?
Yes.
So when you said you moved to South Florida, you always lived in the Tri-County area.
No, Miami towards Miami, but I think it's open now. My mom and dad already stayed over there for a year, and I would come down for a year. It was just back and forth. Like now, my younger brother, he was living with my mom until he is like 15. So then my